Space shapes behaviors. Behaviors create culture, and culture drives results. This is the More Than a Chair podcast by Business Furniture Choreo, where we're creating space for innovation, for dreamers, and for the next big idea. Welcome to the More Than a Chair podcast by Business Furniture Choreo. Today's topic is all about designing for distance. We've gone from talking about collaboration to all about social distancing. So we want to know, can these two coexist once employees go back to work? So I, of course, had to bring in the experts. We have our own Business Furniture Choreo Director of Audience Development, Freiherr here, as well as Kaitlyn Barrett with Parallel Design Group. She's the studio director and senior interior designer. Hey, guys.
Hello.
Hi, Amanda.
Now, for those of you who don't know much about Parallel Design Group is an interior design firm in Indianapolis with a reputation for designing fresh office spaces that are as functional as they are stunning. And Kaitlyn, that's why we had to have you on. We know you're an award-winning interior designer with a lot of experience about tackling office projects of all sizes. So we're so glad that we could have you here today.
Well, thank you. It's my pleasure.
So you heard me talk a little bit about going from collaboration to social distancing. And I know Hannah and I have spent a lot of time talking about this. And she was like, Kaitlyn's our gal. She's the one who's going to be able to kind of give us some insight with that fresh design perspective. What do you think? What's it going to look like? And can these two coexist when we all go back to work, when it goes talking all about social distancing?
I mean, I definitely think they can coexist. I think it will look different than what we've ever seen before. The part that I'm thinking right now is no one really knows what this is going to look like, and everything is unknown. But with everybody working from home right now and, trying to figure out technology, I think we're going to have to rely on technology more than ever too.
Yeah, for sure. We've talked about that. One thing, I don't know if Kaitlyn, if you've heard I feel like it's been big topics in our conversations right now is just talking about panels. And Hannah, I know we've talked a lot about, we've just got these panels lowered, a number of private offices reduced with a lot of our clients. Do you think we're going to have to revert offices back?
Gosh, it feels crazy, the thought that we would have to revert back after everything. I mean, I don't think we ever pictured that once those panels came down, those offices went away, that we would ever be going anywhere again with that. But I think that hopefully we won't be going back. Hopefully we'll be able to come up with some creative solutions. But I don't know. What do you think, Kaitlyn? Do you think the cubicle is making its reemergence?
In my mind, if we put panels back up, to me, that's just one more item we need to clean. So it's like, what are those made out of? And how are this really going to help the situation?
Yeah, for sure. We've talked about that a lot as well. Kaitlyn, what do you think? What are some of the conversations that designers are having right now to encourage social distancing, but still have space for collaboration and make sure things still look fresh and there's room for connection? What are some of those conversations like that you guys are having right now?
I think first it's how everyone's going to get back to the office. So we've heard from many of our clients that people are staggering their work times, or how people are going to be in the office, or as they're a group A and a group B, and group A works Monday, Wednesday, Friday in the office. So trying to figure out what makes sense, how many people should be in the office at one time. And then also, does that mean group A is every other desk? And then that way those spaces that are more dense have a little less density. I'm curious to see what the strategy is to get people back in the office.
Yeah,
I know. And
Hannah, I know you're on a team. Yep. Sorry, Hannah. I know you're on a team with us talking about that. Tell me some of the things the conversations that are happening.
Yes, I know that is definitely what we've been talking about too. Like, how do we make some kind of a staggered approach? And I know, Kaitlyn, when you and I have talked about this before too, it's so interesting because we've talked, in many years past about how do we reduce our footprint in an office so that we are maximizing our real estate. But now to be thinking about, okay, we're going to have employees coming in on different days, but not wanting them to use the same desks, it kind of feels counterintuitive to what we've thought about so much over in the recent years. But I think it's essential, kind of finding that balance. How do we keep our eye on those things that have been important, for us for a while, but still being really, really careful and making sure our teams are comfortable.
Right. One thing I thought was interesting as I heard, or I've heard several times that people are taking seats out of conference rooms. So say you have a conference room that can hold 20 people, maybe there's only 10 seats now. So it keeps everybody in distance away from each other. But then I just heard it makes sense to keep the seats in there and then sit somebody every other seat, because then at least the seats aren't getting closer and closer together either. Because if you think about it, you always have the pastor on the chair and you kind of start merging together. So then it really is a buffer in between each chair with a chair.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a great thought.
Yeah, that is interesting. Super. One thing, when you were talking about the panels and it being one more thing to clean, we've kind of talked a little bit about that with like materials.
Yeah.
What are some of the conversations about materials right now, Kaitlyn? Are there things that you think maybe you would lean towards now that maybe you didn't before?
Yeah, definitely. I think about in a past job, I used to work in the healthcare sector. So I think before it's been so focused about getting hospitality into different spaces. So now we're seeing, office space become more comfortable, and we're constantly merging these market sectors. But I don't think we've ever took a step back and thought like the healthcare sector is now going to start merging into all these other sectors instead of vice versa. Before it was like, well, how do we make this office not seem so sterile? But now, and then you think about getting the cleanliness of a hospital and what type of products they're using. Do you have something that's a little less seamless, so germs can't sit in the seams? Antimicrobial fabrics and paint and any type of surface material. So it might not be design that you see with the eye, but there's like those products working behind the scenes, keeping things clean.
Yeah. Wow. Hannah, I know you're doing a kind of a rehaul of our showroom at Business Furniture and Choreo, and trying to kind of decide about the panels and the materials. What are some of the things that you're looking at right now?
One of the main things we keep talking about is our seating fabrics, to like if it makes sense to switch those to being a non-woven or like a vinyl type of material. And then also talking a lot about creating barriers with panels, whether those be adding like a plastic panel or a stacker type of divider between workstations, or giving employees the option of using like a mobile space divider that they can use at their discretion to put between them and one of their colleagues when at a workstation. And it's kind of interesting because, again, going back to the first topic that you brought up, Amanda, with collaboration, it used to be so important to us just to, be knocking down barriers and allowing our teams to have impromptu collaboration. But, it kind of makes you wonder, if we're all in these spaces with those barriers, how will that change? Will people just be finding workarounds to go and collaborate and talk near each other in a different location than their desks? So all things to consider.
I'm curious about, like, if you think about the first couple weeks we're all back in the office versus 6 months from now, how different that looks, or if people are just kind of gonna jump and dive right into totally changing how they work and implementing all these rules and ways of working, how long it will actually last.
Yeah, for sure. We're seeing a lot of products just talking about, we've talked about the panels, the materials, some of the plexiglass screens. Kaitlyn, are there any products or innovation kind of stuff that you've been seeing that's been catching your attention as a designer that you think, okay, this could work, or okay, maybe this would work for a little while, but like you said, in 6 months, is this just going to be something ugly sitting in the office? I mean, are there, what things are kind of catching your attention right now?
Not quite yet. Have I seen anything that's totally out of the norm or something you haven't seen before? I think it's just those items more popular. So we are actually working on a project right now that we received the submittals for, and we decided to change out all faucets, all bar sinks, any faucet. Usually you just think about the restroom faucets to be, motion censored, touchless, and there weren't that many options to choose from. And so we were even talking, in a year from now, there's probably going to be thousands of options for something like this, where right now we can't find anything. So I think about how our industry is thinking about design and what's going to change, but then you think about every single industry in the world right now is trying to figure out, what's that next item, what's coming next. So I'm excited to see what everyone's coming up with right now too.
Yeah, that whole touchless and voice activated.
Yeah, I saw elevators being more voice activated, which I thought was interesting. And then it made me think, when you get on an elevator and you're crammed with, 15 people all facing the same way, that's probably never going to happen again.
Yeah, I mean, that's really something. It's just it's like things will never be the same again, which is it's a kind of a daunting thought, but
Yeah.
something that Hannah and I talk a lot about is like, how can we turn this into like a pivotal moment to be, something where you can be inspired or think about, something outside the box or something different. Hannah, a lot of that has had to do with like virtual meetings and technology. How do you see some of that shaping the workplace when you're even looking at our own showroom and what could, be beneficial to clients?
Yeah, I feel like the technology piece of this is definitely the thing that seems like it's moving the fastest and it's changing the quickest. And to me, I think about some of the smart and connected products that we've had in our portfolio for a while, and how traditionally those were just seen as more like of a convenience product to help our teams know what meeting rooms were available. But I see all of that technology kind of quickly adapting and changing to make more sense in this post-pandemic workplace that we're talking about. And I think at least for our team too, Amanda, I see how quickly we are adapting to using all of the team meeting technology. Like before, the thought of teleconferencing in for every single meeting would have been daunting. So I think, we're all just going to adapt really quickly as we need to.
How have you been handling it, Kaitlyn, as like a designer? Are you an introvert? Are you an extrovert? Do you mind popping on the camera? How have you been kind of handling it all?
I lie pretty much in the middle, so I can be extroverted, but if I need my design downtime, I want to be completely alone to feel creative.
Uh-huh.
But with our group, I feel really fortunate because we already were working from home. And so one day we just made the decision, hey, everyone, let's not go back to the office. And we were already set up for being at home, working at home, collaborating. So we've kind of always been like this. We FaceTime each other constantly anyways. So really the main difference is it's not even internally, it's externally with the clients. So I kind of think it's been fun when clients hop on a call and I think about, they're CEOs of companies and they're sitting in their bedroom because they have nowhere else to work in their house. And it brings the human aspect to it. Or I'm talking to a client and he had 2 kids crawling all over him and he's trying to like be professional, but he's wearing a sweatshirt when every other time I've seen him, it's in a suit. So there's a part of that I do feel like there's this new type of connection that we've never seen before. And I don't know, I love that part of it, to be honest.
Yeah, that
I
is
loved what you
true.
were saying too the other day, Kaitlyn, when we were talking about how from a collaboration standpoint with technology that now you can just hop on to a colleague's computer and see
Yeah.
like if they're working in CAD or in Revit, that you can just immediately be like, oh, you need to do this or that or switch it around. Which seems like a really pleasant benefit of
It's
working
amazing.
virtually or with technology.
Yeah, so we can we can share screens with each other, and a lot of times if I'm sharing a screen, I'm either also on the phone talking or on like a Teams call with them. But someone can share a screen with me, then they can give me control of their screen. So they have Revit open, I'll either show them how to do something, or if I need help, someone can hop onto my machine, show me how to do something, and it's truly collaborative because they're working on my desktop. So it's been really nice to have something like that set up. I think about if this would have happened even 3 years ago, I don't know what that would look like.
Yeah, wow. We've been talking a lot about, how some of this back to work, the post-pandemic life is we're going to need to do it in phases. And we're calling it the now, the near, and the far. Are designers having to kind of look at in the same approach of knowing that there's some things that your clients are going to need now and then completely different as we phase into knowing what's next?
I think so, because I think everything right now is a day by day. We don't know what's going to happen. So to be jumping to, a completely different way of how we design, or to go back from having an open office to a completely closed office, I think it comes down to just human interactions and mannerisms. So I even think about it. I didn't realize before how much I was touching my own face. So something like that, where it's more of a habit that I can break and it has nothing to do with the design. What are these other things? So it's like washing your hands more often, or I think just seeing hand sanitizer everywhere now is going to be a thing where before it was nice to have, but cleaning your own desk surface, especially if other people are sitting at your desk, I think more of the habit side of it will be shown.
Yeah, the touching your face thing, that's a big one.
Oh,
I
yeah.
had no
I do it
idea.
all the time and didn't realize it.
And it is. It's
like, don't touch your face. And I didn't even realize I was doing it. And then it happened like 3 times in a row. I was like, oh gosh, I need to stop that.
Oh, that's so true. What do you think about some of the the fluffy decorative pillows and the throws and all that residential inspired design that we've seen throughout office spaces? It's something we love to throw in there. Do you think some of that's going to go away in workplaces, that with the different materials and, people sitting on the same cozy pillow at the little ancillary spaces? What do you think, Kaitlyn?
I could see those going away for sure. But then I also go back in my mind and think, when I do add pillows to the space or these accessories, it's as decoration. But then I think about the spaces that I put them in, and I'm like, I don't know if anyone actually sits on that bench that I put a pillow on. So it's almost more making it cozy. Plus, everyone's working at home right now. And so still bringing that home aspect to the office, I think it's going to change. I'm not sure how, but I do think the throws and blankets and pillows will probably be next.
Oh, that's something,
agree.
Hannah, to really think about, of all of us working from home, and how are we going to kind of bring some of that comfort back into the office? What do you think, Hannah?
I think Kaitlyn's right. I think some of those like super cozy, cool things that we have been seeing with pillows and throws, I mean, it seems hard to figure out, like, what are we going to do? Like, be taking those throws home every night and washing them? I don't know. But I think it's going to have to come down to incorporating decorative accessories and things that feel really cool, but that aren't in a high touch part of our spaces. So like decorative, like shelving that has, maybe some cool books and some accessories that someone's not going to, be touching or moving around during the day. I feel like we're going to have to like get creative and figure out how to incorporate some more of that. I do see this being a great time to think about biophilia too. And I know that that's such a trend in our homes, like having lots of plants and lots of natural materials, but then thinking to some materials that are going to be easier still to wipe down. But I don't think that we're going to get away from the res-commercial. I think it's just going to be a new spin.
Yep. That's the thing. You can still have items like floor lamps and rugs that people aren't touching. That's where I think a lot of these design impacts aren't really going to be seen by the eye sometimes. If you think about, voice activation or badge readers or motion sensors, even as far as your HVAC having upgraded ventilation systems instead of something else where it's like, oh, stand 6 feet away from me, but also just having cleaner air in your office. And like you said, bringing in plants helps that too. So I think it's a lot of stuff that isn't seen.
Yeah, that's true. What are some of the things that Parallel's been doing to kind of stay connected during this time? We've been doing some of the virtual happy hours and some of those things that we wonder how that hospitality will transition when we get back to the office. Have you guys started having some conversations about that?
We all stay so connected during the day that we have our like production call on Mondays, which we've always done that, but just in person. So honestly, that's not really changed. We still show it on the screen and we have the same conversation. And then on Fridays, sometimes we'll do like a coffee and connect and just touch base with everyone. So I do see it being more popular kind of with people outside of your original office. Like I think about all the calls I've had with my reps or with you guys and keeping in touch in the industry, because I think that's the hardest part is in-house. We are also close, but making sure we're still learning about the newest products and what they're thinking up and how they think this is going to change things. Keeping up with those people, I think, is a little more difficult.
Has any of this pushed you as a designer to try new things or do anything different than pre-COVID craziness?
I'm reading pretty much any article I can see about it, because they do go from one extreme to the other, where people are like, this is going to be back to normal in a year. And then others say, we're going to have one desk every 6 feet and you can't go this way. We're not going to have social hubs and spaces for people to collaborate. And it's really just right now, I feel like I'm just like in research mode, trying to get an opinion on everything because it is so unknown.
Mm-hmm.
So one day I feel like I read something and I'm like, yes, that is genius. Perfect. And then the next day I read something else. I'm like, that idea yesterday doesn't really make sense anymore. So
yeah,
it's just ever changing and so unknown. So nobody knows.
Yeah. It's hard to plan.
Right. And
oh yeah,
that's so the other thing is as new information comes out, it's just guiding our clients the best way we know how. And like I got 2 emails today about, is there anything new in our space, like spaces that we've already designed, sent to the state, have permits for, they're getting built. They'll come back and say, is there anything, we need to rethink? And so right now I'm just trying to come up with a list of those items besides the, I guess, common sense options as far as cleanability and upping your cleaning and the touchless items. What else could that look like?
Yeah. One of the things I was just reading about was having cleaning, but make it visible, like have them there during the day when employees are there to give employees more peace of mind. I thought that is interesting.
For sure. I think that even when I go to the grocery store and I see the cart is like dripping with sanitizer and I'm like, oh, perfect. Where before I would have thought that was super gross. Why is my cart wet? So now great. They just cleaned this, like looks good. But yeah, that's what I saw too, is usually you have your cleaning crew, come in at the end of the day. And now it's like, if you visually see it, perception is reality. Like they're cleaning it. It's clean here. I feel good. So it's really just everyone feeling comfortable and safe.
Yeah, I love that really you said perception is reality too, because I think that is one of the hugest parts of all of this, especially pertaining to design, because even with some of the barriers and the screens and all of those things, I feel like so much of that, because everything is unknown, is just giving us a sense of, trust in our environment, like allowing to make that perception positive, even though we do still all feel like it's such an unknown.
Exactly. Like I'm not a health expert, but if someone tells me to wear a mask, I will, but I personally don't know how much that helps, or gloves. How much does that help? I have no idea. I'm also playing this by ear like the rest of you. So, I do feel like the perception is reality is when you do go out, or if you leave the house and you see that, you're like, okay, well, everyone's following the rules and we feel good about that. So I think it is visually seeing some of those things happen.
Yeah, I love that. Hey, Kaitlyn, I cannot thank you enough for having you on today. We want to make sure that everyone goes to check out the Parallel Instagram page. They have amazing content. As a fellow social media lover, it's really a great place to feel inspired and putting a lot of really helpful information out right now. So thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. It was fun.
Okay. Yeah, it's been great. Hey, guys, thanks so much. I'm Amanda Clark. This is the More Than a Chair podcast. Okay. Yeah, it's been great. Hey,